Welcome to Windsor 411 Talk. We have an exciting topic today. You're going to be glad that you tuned in. What if I told you that there was enough technique and approach, if you will, out there that could wipe away disturbing memory by simply moving your eyes from left to right? I know, sounds like a science fiction movie, perhaps something you would see on sci-fi television. However, there's been extensive research done regarding this approach. In fact, the American Psychiatric Society, as well as the World Health Organization and Department of Defense, has substantiated that this particular technique is very effective in managing trauma, stress, and disturbing memory. And you are in luck today. Our guest, Reggie Harris, and he's local, practice this particular approach. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Reggie Harris to the show.
Thank you.
Reggie, welcome. Tell us about the technique that I did not name,
Right.
and where your office is.
Okay, I'm located in South Windsor, 1720 Ellington Road. The technique is called EMDR, which stands for Eye Movement Desensitization Reprocessing.
Okay.
And it was developed by Dr. Shapiro over 20 years ago, I think.
Yes, I think so.
And she noticed that when she moved her eyes from left to right or right to left, something was taking place. So.
And I know it's a little bit more
Right.
extensive than what I said, just simply moving your eyes from left to right. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about that and what a typical session.
There are several phases that you have to go through.
Okay.
When a trauma happens, and I'll explain. Trauma, you can either have the capital T, which means this big bomb drops off, or a life-changing or life-altering event, death of a spouse, divorce, or witnessing something violent. That's your capital T. You have the small t, which can be a series of small traumas like bullying, or watching, problems at school, problems at work. And a lot of times those little T's can add up to way heavier than the big life-altering T. So the different types of trauma. With that, the trauma sometimes makes you feel negatively about yourself, or a negative cognition, meaning, either I'm not worthy, or I should have done something, or if I only had have known better. And we start off, the typical introductory is just talking, get history taking. What is the trauma?
Okay.
So your past can impact your present, and that's when it becomes a problem for people, when what's happened to them before is really impacting them today. So you have flashbacks, or you can't sleep, problems at work, or people start drinking, or they start numbing to forget the past. So EMDR helps with that, working on how you see yourself, how that trauma, you never forget the trauma. Like, none of us, any scar that we all have, we remember where we got it, we remember what happened, what it felt like, but the scar itself doesn't hurt anymore. So trauma is like an emotional scar, but except it's really impacting your daily life as if it were as if you were injured the first time.
Wow.
So EMDR helps with that, to help you see yourself differently. You never forget the trauma, but it doesn't affect you as if it were like the first time.
Okay. Another question. How long have you been in practice? How long have you been practicing EMDR?
I think it's 4 years maybe now. I went through EMDR HAP, which is in Hampton, Connecticut. go through a 2-day, which is the first phase, the 2-day training. You get 10 hours of, or 5 hours of using it, practicing it. Then you go to phase 2, which is the second part, and then you get your certificate. I went on to get certified, which is another 10 hours, I think,
Okay.
20 hours, to get certified in EMDR. Right now, I'm an EMDR consultant in training, meaning I help others who are coming up to consult with them.
So you plan it forward, as
Yes.
the kids say.
Right.
Tell me about your business associations, such as, I know you work with a homicide group.
It's the TRN, which is Trauma Recovery Network.
Okay.
There are 2 of them actually, one in Hartford and one in New Haven, and it's also nicknamed like the Homicide Survivor Network, or if someone has experienced a trauma, and we agree to donate, up to 10 sessions.
Wow.
It's usually never that long. It's 5 sessions, where the police have a list of therapists who've been trained with that. Recently, I've had 2 calls actually, and one person came forward. Some people aren't ready for to be helped or go through the whole process of it. And I think, unlike typical talk therapy, there's really very little talking in EMDR. It's going through the bilateral stimulation, which is either the eye movement or what we call the TheraTappers.
Okay.
Or there's also a light bar, but I don't have that.
Okay. Do you have the TheraTappers with you today? Perhaps you could
Yep.
demonstrate for our audience. I'm not going to let him do it on me, though.
Yeah,
Because
no,
I don't want
man.
to disclose something traumatic. But maybe we can do it on the cameraman. What do you think?
No. I think he's been traumatized enough today.
No, I don't mind holding them in my hand if you
So-
want to talk about what
so
that means.
So the TheraTappers really are the same thing. It's stimulating,
Okay.
right, left, or left, right.
Okay.
So as
You didn't prepare me for that. I was almost traumatized.
so and then you get a thump on each
Okay,
hand.
yeah, I feel it.
So kids sometimes will call them buzzies because they'll either put them on their legs.
Okay, I'm
and
going
you
to try
teach-
this one. So buzz me.
Yep.
Okay.
So, and you get that right-left, or bilateral stimulation, which basically lights up the brain, and to step backwards, or to take a few steps backwards, the brain sometimes files things incorrectly. So you get a trauma, and somehow you think it's my fault. I caused this.
Okay.
I shouldn't have been there. I should have never done this, or whatever. And by reoccurring, or else you get maybe something out of sequence. So I've had veterans who, they will, have to censor, where they breach a doorway,
Okay.
and somehow something went wrong, and this particular person got the sequence of the occurrence wrong, and he always thought he was the first one to breach the door. And after we went through a couple of bilateral stimulations, he was like, "Wait a minute, I wasn't the one that did that."
Okay. So I'm holding these. What do I do? What do you have a
So I
client
have-
do when they're
So when I hold
holding
that,
it?
I
And
tell them, I want you to picture the event,
okay. So
and
picturing
then
the event.
picture the event, and then when I stop, tell me what comes to mind. And I go through a little bit more, picture the event, how you felt inside, whether or not it's the sickness in your stomach, the tightness in your chest, the words, either I'm not worthy, or I did this, or I'm not good, what the negative thought that you had during this, or that's associated with this event. And then when I stop, tell me what comes to mind.
At what point do I get a buzz?
After I say that, then I start that. Then I start the bilateral stimulation.
Okay.
And after several sequences, I stop and I say, what comes to mind? And they were like, well, it wasn't my fault. Okay, let's go with that. And I started again.
Okay.
Picture that, that sensation, what was it like? And then when I stop, what comes to mind?
It's interesting, as I was doing some research for this topic, I believe it was Kaiser Permanente who did a study and said that they have seen remarkable improvement, perhaps even a cure, after just one single session.
I've had people, after I was called on a situation where another therapist had called me saying their client is stuck. Can you help them with that? Let's give it a try. And had 2 sessions. She came in on the 3rd session, and she said, "I just came here to just thank you,
Wow.
for that, and and she said that the nightmares had stopped, her chemical use, drinking stopped, and she said, "Someone thank you," and she said, I think now I can move on,
Okay.
with traditional therapy, which was, she went back to her original therapist.
I think though what's really interesting about you is that not only are you EMD qualified, but you're also a licensed marriage and family therapist. Tell us a little bit about that and how those 2 modalities can complement one another.
And people always go, why did you specialize in trauma? The world of quantum directing. The specialty doesn't, you don't pick the specialty picks you. It's something that you're good at, and if one person finds out you're good at, then someone tells someone tells someone else, and then all of a sudden you find you're getting this calls, and they're all the same.
Okay.
So, marriage and family therapy. So I work with children, families, singles, adults. I prefer to work with anyone older than 10, and I usually don't do children.
Yeah.
Part of the specialty, so how does that work with that? I started getting women who were either rape victims or children that were abused, and I said, I need to find another way of helping them.
Yes.
So I took this EMDR course and found it very effective, started using it, and started getting a series of either abuse and I was getting more and more and more, and I'm like, why am I getting these calls? Not knowing that one person was telling someone else who was then telling someone else, and that's how I ended up getting a call working with children who've been sold in human trafficking.
Wow.
So I had a series of that for a while.
Okay.
So
This is kind of like your second career. You were in the corporate world. And I guess, is that when the profession began to choose you?
my undergrad is in psychology, but in the human services, they don't pay you very much.
Yeah.
So I went and took a job because you got to pay bills, you got to do this, you got to do that, survive. And my boss, and it was a running joke at work because every time, once in a while, my boss would come in and there'd be somebody in my office crying.
Oh, wow.
Or somebody goes, we're a financial company, we're not. It's like, and all of a sudden they had this massive layoff.
Okay.
And I said, something? I gotta change my life somehow, change direction. I want control. I don't want to be faced with the loss of a job and then having to find out what to do. So I started going to college, and there were people who were like, why are you're gonna spend the next 3 years, at your age? And I was like, 3 years is coming either way.
Yes.
I would rather be at the back end, of finishing, as opposed to getting laid off. Now it's over almost 10 years, and people who are now getting laid off are going, Reg, can you tell me what you did how do you restart your life? And I'm saying to myself, you were the one person who told me not to. So that's how I ended up changing. I'd rather I want to take charge. So you can either, like I tell a lot of clients, you can either be the one with the leash or the one that's wearing the collar. And they always look at me like, what do you mean? I said, a dog. A dog's got the leash. A dog's got the collar. So you can either take charge of your life, or you can let life take charge of you.
Okay.
One or the other.
Wow. Some time ago during our conversation, you said that some trauma victims are not ready.
Right.
How do you help the client identify when they're ready?
It's really
To deal with
them. Sometimes they're not ready to talk about it.
Okay.
Or to visualize it,
Okay.
or to even, they just can't put it to words, which EMDR is really good for when you can't put it into words, because we work with pictures, feelings, thoughts. But sometimes, like this woman the other day said she wasn't ready to deal with what was going on. And she was caught up in the why this happened to me. So, and I said, something that's one of the worst questions you can either ask, why is this happening to me? Unless, doctor, my wrist hurt, why is it? They can take x-rays, whatever. Why gives power to the problem, because now you're waiting for an answer. So, like, throwing an anchor, over the side of a boat and tying the rope to the boat. When you ask why, now you're stopped. You're stuck, waiting for an answer that, one, probably isn't coming, or two, you're not going to like if it does come. So, the correct questions to ask to really bring the power back to you is, what do I need to do to get beyond this event?
Okay.
How do I put my life back together? That is more empowering than the why. So, people who aren't ready, I either tell them we can do the talk therapy, or please call me when you are ready. Because when the light comes on, when you're finally ready.
Yes.
All of us know when we're ready to do something. So,
I'm sitting in this office with you today, and I'm struck by the toys that you have around. This one, this one. You have candy. How do you use these toys? And you can have a spinner over there.
I got spinners, I got the fidget box. Well, this is really, that's for me. I'm a big Doctor Who fan.
Yes.
So the police box, that's just, so people come in, they go, oh, Doctor Who, or if they don't. So that I actually put together, but the kids like it, the teenagers like it. The adults like the candy more than the kids. Because it's something that's soothing. I can't offer you a drink, so so I give people candy, something that will help them. Like, I have bottled water, coffee, fidget spinners. My other office, I have stuffed animals, and believe it or not, adults will gravitate to the stuffed animals because they just want something to hold on to while they're remembering this horrible thing that's happened to them.
Yeah. What kind of stuffed animals do you have, and are they diverse?
Yes, I have like the bean babies, like animals, dogs, cats, stuffed bears, stuff like that.
Okay. Any pink panthers?
No pink panthers. So I've had people, right now the one that I don't have, I had plenty, and people I'm not even thinking would walk away with the stuffed animals. I'm like, where are all my stuffed animals?
A little pilfering going on.
Yeah, a little pilfering going on, but that's all right. That's okay.
Okay. All right. I know we're getting to the end of this half hour. It went by really fast. Is there something else you'd like to add before we leave? Because I know you talked about the fact that physical scars are very visible, but oftentimes our mental scars are not so visible. What else would you like to add?
Well, I'd let people know that, through therapy doesn't help you forget. It just helps the past not to impact your present.
Okay.
So, the brain, I can't remember the doctor's name, but he quotes, the brain is really, really good at remembering bad.
Yes.
And really, really bad at remembering anything good. And that's why most adults can remember the very, very, very first teacher that scolded you.
Mm-hmm.
You remember where you were, what you dressed, and promising yourself, I'm never doing that again. But most of us can't remember the very, very, very first teacher that said, good job.
You're exactly right about those negative memories. Some great person said that one of the reasons why we remember the negative memory because they have a survival aspect to it, and we need that
Correct.
to survive the next.
Right. The brain is designed to protect us.
Yes.
So it's telling us don't. Always with the don'ts. Because the don'ts mean we're not going to make that mistake again. As opposed to something good, well, it has nothing to do with protecting us. That's why we can look at old photo albums and go, oh, I remember that day. Oh, I remember. But before you looked at the photograph, it wasn't on your mind.
Yes.
You know, what people can do, and what I always tell my clients to do, the one thing most of us do before we fall off to sleep is we list things that went wrong that day, giving us no reason to want to get up the next day. So I tell people, you need to go to bed and go, what went well today? You need to remind yourself what went well.
Okay.
You know, and then secondly, what part did you play in your day going well?
All right.
And then what do you like about you? So
that's a great place for us to stop. Again, tell people how they can reach you.
Because
you are pretty good.
Thank you. Reggie Harris, and I own Lighthouse Counseling and Wellness Group. We're in South Windsor.
Your phone number, please.
860-550-3953.
Okay, Reggie, thank you so much. And this is just part one. We have to have you on again. And we'll talk about some really fun stuff as it relates to EMDR.
Look forward to it.
Thank you for watching, and tune in again for part two of the technique EMDR, the approach that helps you wipe away disturbing memory by looking from left to right. Bye.